This thing because we are now beginning a new episode of Bid Nerds. Welcome everybody to a Monday edition of the Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on cars and bids and bring a trailer. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host, along with my partner Michael Deeb over there, who is coming to you from San Francisco, while I'm right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, on the Las Vegas Strip. This is a Monday edition. We do this every day, Monday through Friday, so we're just getting started. What we do on the show is we talk about those interesting cars and bids and bring a trailer, and sometimes P-Car Market and other places, and kind of get you teed up on what's going to be what's coming up for auction today, and we'll make some predictions on what we think those cars are going to sell for, and we even keep track of it. Have ourselves a little bit of a competition, and it's brutal. How did it go Friday for us? How did we end the week there, Michael Deeb?
Actually, you know what? This was probably the most parity we've had in a single week since we started the show, so it was good. I did win Friday, but you won the week by a single bid.
Single bid.
Yeah. It was really good. Let's just cover Friday real quick. On P-Car Market, we were looking at what I thought was a pretty clean 911 SC Targa, and I actually thought this car would break 40,000. So I said 43. You guessed 38, and that car was only bid to 36, which is interesting. So I think you guessed the platform correctly because that car didn't really go anywhere, and I guessed the value of the car correctly because now it's sitting on the diesel tank on P-Car at 44,000. But anyway, that was a win for you to start off the day, and just goes to show you how the platform costs you money. I mean, that guy's talking about leaving $8,000 on the table. If he would put on Bring a Trailer, I think that car would have broke 44.
Yeah.
So anyway, jumping over to cars and bids, we looked at a Mini Cooper S Cab. John Cooper works with a lot of suspension mods. I said 79. You guessed 65. We both thought that car was semi-useless, although cool for being a cab with a stick. It brought $7,500 and did not sell at that price.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Whoever owns this car is stuck with it.
Miles.
Yeah, and look, there's snow in the background. I mean, come on, you're not selling a convertible when there's snow on the ground wherever you're at. What are you thinking?
So true. Okay, cool. Jumping over to Bring a Trailer, we looked at an Audi S4. Not the cleanest example you and I have seen, but certainly low enough miles that maybe somebody would reach for it. I said 11, you said 9. That car sold at $11,100. I was one bid away from a Yachty on that, JP.
Wow.
And then our 69 912. I actually thought I was going to shock you with my bid at 59,000. You seem to understand that there's collectors out there that want these cars. You said 55. That car again sold at $60,412. I was very close to another Yahtzee, but that car sold at that price, which is it's the top of the market for a really nice 912. And then the last car of the day, a Ferrari, and I hate it when you win the Italian cars, which you seem to do. 2000 Ferrari 550 Maranello. Nice example, but in dire need of like $12,000 in belt services, dropping the motor, and whatever else you're going to find when you're in there. I said 110. You bid 115, and man, we were all over this car, JP. Yeah. You won this by $500. So anyways, you won that. It sold for $113,000. 2 wins for you, 3 wins for me. On the week, JP, you had 12. I had 11. We had 2 draws and no Yahtzees between the two of us. So that's parity.
I mean, you did kind of change your bid on a couple after I convinced you that you were completely wrong, and then you beat me. But who's counting that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a column for that.
We're still waiting for the word from the Bid Nerds producer to let us know how that's going to work out in the rule book, but she has not given us word. We're still awaiting. All right.
I love that. Every time you pick up Patootie looks at the microphone and never at the camera. I mean,
it's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's kind of like me. I'm like, yes, JP.
That is correct. She's the real director here. All right. Well, let's get today's cars and this week's cars, and Yeah, I'm pretty excited about what's going on, huh? There's some cool
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
This is a weird mix of cars that we have today. There's one in here that
Yep.
I'm terribly excited about that you all will probably think, what the hell? But
Yeah.
let's get to it. Let's get right to the cars.
Okay, cool. So, JP, we're gonna start off on. Actually, I don't even know what platform this is on. It's
You
on Rig
know,
and Trailer.
since
Yeah.
I'm getting you, I'm queuing you up.
Yeah.
Just so you guys at home, we're going to put the links to all the cars in the information below so you can kind of follow along and see which cars we're talking about, and you can look at the pictures at your own leisure. Go ahead, Michael Deeb. Sorry about that.
Okay, JP, you heard me say this before, but this is truly one of my all-time favorite cars, and it comes with a qualifier. I've never driven one, but I've always been a huge Audi fan. Has something to do with going to Sears Point in the I think in like 1990 and watching a pair of Audi 90 turbos with their twin turbocharged motors dominate an IMSA race there, and I just became an Audi fan at that moment. So this is pure unobtainium because they never sold this B4 platform, a 1994 Audi RS2 Avant, which is redundant because all RS2s are Avant, but they call it an Avant anyways, which is Audi speak for wagon. This car's super cool because it was a collaboration with Porsche, which I've come to find out now was even built. And I'm going to read this to you. I have so much information on this car. This car was built at the Rosselbau plant, where Porsche made the 959 and then subsequently did the assembly for a suspension system they designed for Mercedes-Benz on the on the Mercedes 500E. And then after 500E production ceased, they used this plant to do the final bit of construction on the suspension and the wheels and tires for the Audi RS2. So Porsche helped, the engineers helped to design the suspension. These cars used Cup 1 wheels, and then these cars also had Porsche's big red brakes. I believe even say Porsche on the calipers. I mean, this is just a really cool car. Audi turned up the whip on this 2.3 liter 20 valve turbo. The car made 315 horsepower and 302 pound-foot torque, and actually employed, I think, Audi's first 6-speed manual transmission. So these cars, if you can imagine, even at 3,400 pounds, this car did 0 to 60 in under 4.9 seconds. In those days, JP, that was supercar territory. On the Autobahn, this car did 163 or 165 miles an hour. So it was just an unbelievable car back in period, and it was never brought to the United States. This particular car has some miles on it, but it's titled in Arizona. With 266,000 kilometers on it, the car has essentially, that translates to 165,000 miles. I'm sure you could spend $5,000 to $10,000 on, weeping hoses and baskets and things and clean up this car. But I imagine that drivetrain is pretty bulletproof, and you could at least expect to get another 50 to 150,000 miles on it if you continue to take care of it. Pure unobtainium in this country, but they do now qualify for the 25-year rule, and some of them are making them into the United States. These cars were famously, one of the color options was famously Nogaro blue, and that would be mine of choice. I think the red brake calipers would pop on a bright blue Nogaro, but this one is silver with an all-black interior, Alcantara headliner, Bose sound system. These cars had everything back in period, and it was considered a Q car, like a car that you might not notice on the freeway, and it was as fast, almost as fast as a Porsche Turbo. Think of it as a 964 generation car with 996 performance credentials. This was a really cool car and way ahead of its time. They made it for 2 years. They made 3,000 of them, and you can bring one in or buy this one sitting here. There you go.
What the size of this car compared to a like an Audi A4? It's about the same size, right? I mean, this is basically the earlier version of it, or more A3 size.
It's more A3 size. It's smaller. Okay. So this is built on the Audi 80 platform. You recognize the B4 platform. Mm-hmm. It's an Audi 80 wagon. And then when the A4 came out, the A4 was in every dimension a teeny bit bigger car. But this is the last great performance car before Audi made that whole new platform. So this A3 size is an analogy for sure.
On the earlier Quattro cars, they still had like this little button here that actually allowed you to mess with the differential a little bit. Do you know how much power you could divert from one axle to the other, or if that was a locker? Or I can't imagine it was locker. Was it?
I'm not positive what it was on that car. I do sort of think it was a locker. My memory is not perfect on this, but these early Audis were almost a perfect split front to rear, which is not ideal. It's not what you want. And when Porsche did theirs on the 964, they did like 60-40 or something like that. By today's standard, a performance all-wheel drive car is 80 to the rear, 20 to the front. So these cars are still kind of primitive in that regard. It was the speed and maybe not quite the turning per se. These cars did handle really well. They were 1.6 inches lower than a standard Audi 80, but that diff wasn't helping you out.
Yeah. All right. Well, this car is coming up for auction very quickly here. Where is it out of again? It's in an hour and a half that's closing.
Mesa, Arizona.
Okay.
And this car was sitting at $33,000 on just 15 bids, so it's probably just a little more than that now at $34,000 on 17 bids.
Which is cool. Coming out of Mesa, Arizona, you can fly from pretty much anywhere in the country. Come and get this car and drive it home, since you have all-wheel drive. It's not like trying to go to, I don't know, Boston and picking up a rear-wheel drive like Mercedes or something like only a moron would think of doing. What's your bid on this car, Michael Deeb?
I think this car should have a late surge. You just don't see them, and I think they're worth big bucks. I think the last one that was on here had like 90,000 miles and brought like $60,000. So I'm gonna go big.
Wow.
I'm gonna say, again, it's $10,000 to get one here if you can find one, and it's hard to find one. I'm gonna say $47,000. Probably regret it, but whatever. I'm gonna go big.
Yeah, I don't know that. I just don't see it. I mean, I think it's a neat car. I think it's, you got to wonder. It's like, okay, it's got the cool badge, it's got all this kind of neat kind of thing, but really, how different is it from just the slightly next generation car that you can get for way less money? I don't know.
Right.
I just I'm gonna bet the under. I'm gonna go 45 and think that actually I don't even know. Yeah, I'd be surprised if it even breaks 40, quite frankly.
All right.
But that'll be interesting to see. Very cool car.
Okay, so JP, we're going to go out of order here just for a second. And again, only because I'm so enthralled with this Audi. Let's jump over to car bids and look at the car, the 2017 Ford Focus RS with 51,000 miles out of Shawnee Mission, Kansas. Think about this now. Spec-wise, the car is so similar. Like 23 years later, Ford finally brought us a 2.3-liter turbocharged 4 with a 6-speed manual that makes 350 horsepower and 350 pound-foot of torque and weighs an identical 3,400 pounds. And this car is considered so cool. 23 years later, they finally make something that basically can hang with that old Audi. Apparently, these cars famously had a head gasket recall. This one has had that done. Other than that, there's a few miles on this car. For a 3-year-old car, somebody clearly uses this as a daily. So it's got 51,000 miles on it. But this is basically a World Rally homologation special. They've been making earlier generations of this car out of the UK and in other parts of the world. But for some reason, Ford hasn't made this little hot hatch here for the domestic market. And this generation of the Focus RS was finally available to American buyers. I feel like Ford sold every one of them that they made. Like cars didn't really languish on dealerships' lots, yet they stopped bringing it. You can't buy this car brand new anymore. I don't think it's available. So get yours while you can. This one is sitting at $20,000 on 12 bids out of Kansas.
Our local friends down at in downtown Las Vegas at Alt Rebel, the kid down there, he's got one of these, and he's like the area autocross champion. You can't help but be an autocross hero driving one of these cars. Matt Farah and a lot of other famous car drivers own these and say they're one of the best cars, one of the best sports cars ever made, not just for the money, but in general.
Wow.
So, I mean, honestly, I respect this car. Again, and I say this a lot about American cars. I respect a lot of times what they try to do and when they occasionally take risks, and this is one of those times where they did, and it really paid off for them, and hopefully that means more of this type of thing in the future. I sure would like something like this that's less whiz bang, that's less like boy racer, spaceship, shoot 'em down. I mean, this thing just looks like it's in a digital space, in real life, and that appeals to a younger buyer, I suppose. But you got to wonder how many younger people really are the people that bought these. I feel like it's a lot of slightly older folks that understood what the performance was, but just and then there's another bunch of people that would buy these but are just like, I can't be seen in that. That's just too ridiculous looking.
Yeah, and here's the thing, they do make a slightly lesser version of this. It's still hotter than the basic one. It's the Ford Focus ST. I'm guessing that's probably in the high 20s to low 30s. But like, this thing was over $40,000 when it was brand new, it's like nearly a $50,000 hatchback, That's crazy.
Yeah, and when you can get a Volkswagen Golf R and it has a much more subtle, look, but is still has a really cool sports look to it. That's the thing that I think American designers they just go crazy with the radiuses. This looks like a gaming desktop computer. Like, does it come with a vaping machine in? I mean, does it do you open up the glove box from the factory and does it have key lime pie vape and all the other stupid strawberry shortcake stuff?
There's a pie chart somewhere that proves that 65% of the owners of the cars vape, for sure.
Yeah, unbelievably bad. All right, great car, kind of goofy looking, undeniably good. But this one does look well used. It looks like, got lots of rock chips and dings and stuff like that. So you're not getting a new car. 50,000 miles, no big deal for a fairly modern car. It's sitting at around 22 and a half with 17 bids, 3.5 hours to go. Where is your bid, Michael Deeb?
So it's at 22,500. I initially put 31. This is crazy. At 22.5, is it going to break 30? I don't think so. So I'm gonna go super conservative here and say $29,000.
Damn it! That is so tough because I'm with you there. I actually don't think it'll break the 30 mark, but since you went 29, I'm gonna go 30 and say, hey, let's see a rally for this thing. It's a rally car, so let's see a rally at the last minute. But I think we're gonna be pretty close. All right, what do we got next?
Yeah, and again, that car is 60 cents on the dollar to the Audi for similar performance and 23 years younger build quality.
But we'll probably continue on its depreciation curve, whereas the Audi will continue to go up.
Right. Yeah. Especially if somebody buys and pours a little love into that car and cleans it up. It'd be a really nice car to have. Despite miles, I wouldn't care, So anyways, let's stay on cars and bids, JP, and look at this 1993 Mercedes-Benz 400E 4.2 AMG Stage 3. And this is a car that was originally built for the Japanese market, despite it being left-hand drive. This is a no-reserve auction out of West New York, New Jersey, and it has just 47,700 miles. Now, in these days, JP, this is a couple of years before Mercedes bought AMG. So back then, AMG was a specialty house that did tuner cars. So you could bring them a car and ask them for a stage 1, a stage 2, or a stage 3 build. Stage 1 would have just maybe some suspension and wheels and body cladding. Stage 2 and 3 would be a little bit more involved with more suspension, probably fancier wheels. And this car also employs a specific cam and exhaust system, suspension, body kit, gauges, and several other add-ons that would have produced this particular vehicle. All of that being said, this W124 platform uses a 4.2 liter V8. This was basically the 500E's little brother. And with the AMG stuff on it, this car only had 244 horsepower and 260 pound-foot of torque. It's probably a fun car to drive. This is still not anything that's going to give a 500E a run for its money. Therefore, I don't think this car has any chance of bringing 500E money which is silly. You kind of think it should because there's so few of these. This wasn't mass produced by Mercedes. This was just an order that AMG filled. There's maybe, I think Doug Farrell says there might be like 20 other cars like this back in the period. Most historians agree that less than 20 of these 400Ds were ever built.
What the F is going on with this stereo system?
I don't know.
You've got,
Don't ask me.
I mean, look at this thing. What is, it's like a speaker on the A pillar that looks like it's bolted on. It's a JBL. Yeah. And then you've got these big bulbous things on the door panels with carbon fiber trim. Let's get back to that picture here. Sorry, guys, I'm flipping through. Yeah, I mean, that can't be period correct. I mean, carbon fiber. I mean, it looks like the like the bulge is like maybe that's some kind of funky stereo that AMG did, and then somebody put some newer speakers in here, but those speakers just like jump out at you as not period correct, and that just
which is
a silly detail.
Yeah, it's a shame because the car has such low miles. This should be a collector quality car, and it just doesn't look like it's that great. And again, somebody imported this car in 2015, I think, JP, and it's a no reserve auction. I mean, I imagine somebody spent some money to get this car from Japan to here. That was not an inexpensive proposition, and yet they're just throwing it up to see what it brings. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I actually respect no reserve auctions. I think that's, if you're going to do it right. Reserves, if you have a reserve, it definitely reduces the amount of people that will bid.
Engage.
If people think that it's that the reserve is going to be too high because it's something really special, they just won't even bother. So this has a lot of people speculating and talking about it, and I mean, I can't think of a situation where it hasn't really paid off on almost anything on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. But then again, there's always that thing. This is a weird car. This is an interesting car. It's sitting at $22,000 with only 12 bids. What do you think? I mean, it's out of New York, obviously, so this is not a car that's going to be easy to get out of there right now.
No, if you want to spend some money. You're so right, JP. You're so right. And the other thing, JP, that we didn't say is that gray interior is terrible. If this car had an all-black interior, this would be so much more, I mean, I hate to say it, but like more masculine. I think it would be a cooler looking car. Also do away with the wipers on the front headlights. It's got the clear corner lenses. I mean, this car is so close, and yet leather, you're not going to change. And so anyway, whatever. All right. My bid. Sorry, JP.
That's all right.
It's just sitting on 12 bids. This car should still break $30,000. I think the no reserve auction is going to have people looking at it, but not much. And it's not a $50,000 car. So I'm just going to go $33,000. And of course it sells, no reserve.
Yep. I do not think it breaks 30. I'm going to say 29. I think it languishes here, and I think this is going to be the exception to what I just talked about. It does, having no reserve definitely gets people's attention, but I think this is the wrong platform. Sorry, Doug. I think this is a Bring a Trailer car. If you have something this wild and different, I just don't know if the audience appreciates something this kind of special, for lack of a better way to put it. So if our audience is listening, JP is saying that this car is going to be stolen this afternoon in 2.5 hours. You'll be able to steal this car for less than $30,000, and you will get it. It's a no reserve auction out of West New York, New Jersey. So there you go. Cool car.
That's a good take, man. All right. All right, let's look at a really unusual car. JP, I honestly didn't know much about this vehicle when I selected it. It's a 1977 Maserati Kyalami 4.2. Kyalami is a racetrack a Formula One racetrack in South Africa, and Pedro Rodriguez, the Formula One driver, was racing for Cooper that was using a Maserati engine in 1967, and he had a very unexpected victory. So the name of this car is a homage to that Maserati's last Formula One victory at hands of Pedro Rodriguez in South Africa. This was built as an evolution of the Longchamps, which had square headlights. This car, the Maserati Longchamps, used a Ford V8 motor. Maserati decided to put their own 4.2-liter V8 in this vehicle and give it round headlights. And this car was just a little bit longer and a little bit lower, and basically took the Longchamps design and made it a little more streamlined, and it was a very attractive example. That being said, Maserati was such a tailor-made auto manufacturer in the 70s and early 80s. In like a 7-year period, JP, they only made 200 of these cars total for the whole world. They did use a 5-speed manual transmission. These cars made 265 horsepower and 260 pound-foot of torque. They lost a little bit of power for the domestic U.S. markets. This car only has 250. And there was later in the production an upgrade that you could request that offered a 4.9-liter V8 motor that brought it almost to 300 horsepower. Those cars, I imagine, there's less of them, and they're probably paying a much higher premium. But this car is looking like a deal with 92,000 kilometers or 57,000 miles out of Ocady, South Carolina. This car is sitting at just $25,000. JP, if you can find a photograph, or if you look at the car, if you look from the driver's door back from the side of the car, perpendicular to the car, that thing looks like a Fox body notchback. You know, the rear end of the car looks like an old Mustang, so it probably drives like one too. The interior doesn't do anything for me, but everything inside the car is covered in Connolly leather, which was the King's leather maker out of the UK. So it's probably feels and smells amazing. But those designs, they didn't seem to hold up well. These big boxy leather covered pieces throughout the interior don't really get me going. Rarity of this car and its unusual story is cool, but these don't seem to be big collectibles. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they're not very collectible because, I mean, who would trust this to get anywhere? This car just, I mean, would you say, okay, I'm going to go somewhere that I actually need to be? This is not the car that you're going to choose. I got to think that this is something that works 1 out of 5 times.
Yeah, you bring a good point. JP, you and I like to do these one-day rallies, whether we drive to Death Valley or out to Overton, or if I'm here in Northern California and I go with the Breakfast Club or the Color Tour. I wouldn't trust this car to go to top and back. You're absolutely right. And what's funny is Maserati, on the Longchamps, they were using a Ford V8, like probably a 351 Cleveland or something, and they ditched the Ford engine to put in their own engine because Maserati, and I quote, thought this was more reliable. So anyway, there you go. And look at the values today. I mean, these cars just don't bring big money. It's probably a wonderful car to drive to Cars and Coffee and back, but you better have AAA. JP, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say. It's just an unusual car. 4 Weber carburetors, the ZF transmission. There's cool equipment, but the car weighed 3,700 pounds. This is not a quick car. So anyways.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have anything about it that's like really like that jumps out at you. It's not subtly cool. It's not over the top cool. It's just kind of like it's an Italian miss. I do would this be neat to have? Sure, but it's certainly not something that I would. There's a list of so many other things, many other cars before this one that unless it's unbelievably inexpensive, I don't know who buys this car.
Well, it's sitting at $25,000 now. It doesn't have a lot of action. Again, low production numbers, rarity in the North American market, and being on a trailer gives the car a fighting chance to bring $40,000. Values, the lowest values for these cars are right under 50 grand. The high values are under 100 grand. So that being said, I do think this car will break 40 grand. But I am changing my bid. I'm going to go. It just break. I'm going to say $41,000. I don't know. We'll see, but it should. If not, it's really well bought. If this car doesn't break 40 and sells, it's really well bought.
I think people right now are looking for things. If they're gonna put money in something, they're looking to put money in stuff that's a little bit more blue chip. This thing may be blue, but it's not blue chip. If it climbs another 10,000, I'd be amazed. I mean, it does have 3 hours to do it, and it could rally in the last. But I'm gonna say 35, and
That's a fair take.
If somebody buys this car and gets a good investment opportunity out of it, hey, I'm glad I'll be paying attention because maybe there's opportunities with something like this. But
yeah.
All right. What else we got?
JP, based on your tease, this is the car you were telling us at the top of the hour. We're looking at, and man,
now
JP,
we're talking.
This brings me back to junior high,
I might wake up now.
A 1985 Toyota MR2 5-speed with just 66,000 original miles. JP, look at those pop-up headlights. This is a mid-engine 4-cylinder. This car was so unfortunately ahead of its time, although it was a commercial success. Am I wrong? Didn't JP? They made the car for years.
They sold gajillions of these.
Yeah, way ahead of its time. Lightweight, economical, reliable as anything. This was a car, JP, I think you and I could go to the front of this car and lift up the bumper and lift that car off the ground. They were so light. Just a 1.6 liter 4A GE inline 4. I mean, if I remember correctly, JP, weren't they like 140, 150 horsepower or something? 160?
Not in this version, no. I mean, the supercharged ones a couple years later were getting up there. But yeah, if this thing had 100 horsepower, I'd be amazed.
110? Yeah, I mean,
not
crazy.
Even, yeah.
Out of Walla Walla, Washington, JP, the question I have for you, which I'm going to base my bid on,
is how much I'll bid on it.
Yeah, I can't remember. Are those seats, in your opinion, are those seats the original upholstery, or are those seats been recovered?
Let's go back and take a look. I believe I don't remember seeing anything that made me say no. Yeah, that's original seat. The thing about this car is,
I can tell you.
Yeah, this is the most basic. This is the most basic setup of one of these. I mean, there's no wing on the back, no power windows. Does this one have air conditioning even? I mean, it does have a leather wrapped steering wheel, but I think they all did. It doesn't have T-tops. They didn't have T-tops till later. No sunroof. I mean, this car has almost nothing. It does have alloy wheels, and there's your little, twin cam overhead engine there.
It's crazy.
This is a Lotus Elise like 20 years before the Lotus Elise. And then really, when you think about it, the Lotus Elise used a Toyota engine. So, I mean, these were so fun to drive. As much fun as I had in all my Scirocco's, I really wanted one of these. And, oddly, I did own one for a short amount of time, but it was kind of broken. Just that mid-engine, super lightweight, like you said, the easiest short wheelbase, just flick it around a corner, super forgiving. You get in one of these and it's just like being in an 80s fighter pilot. I mean, this is like Top Gun on wheels. Top Gun probably sold more of these cars. Even though that one of these wasn't in Top Gun, it just felt like being in an F-14. You're like looking for that lever that's going to eject you out of it if you get shot down by a MiG or something like that. I mean, that's right. That's right. I am dangerous.
I wanted one in my 20s. I think I met a guy out in the Sunset in San Francisco. He had a white one with blue interior. And I actually had my mechanic come with me. He met me in the middle of the day.
You don't need a mechanic to buy one of these. It's a Toyota. It's going to always work.
Hey, man, it was my money. And I had never bought my own car.
It's because you were always around Italian stuff.
That's right. This was like reading. This might as well have been Chinese. I had no idea what I was looking at. But I just thought it was really cool, and I took for the test drive, and thought it drove beautiful. I couldn't believe how flat it handled and how sporty the car felt. It was better than I thought it was, and I've been a huge fan ever since. I hate those wheels, but love the car. Yeah. So.
There's something period about those wheels, those kind of angular 3-spoke blocky things.
Yeah. Now, you and I have been very good about, because we're both Porsche fans, we've been really good about looking at a vast array of Japanese cars since we started the show. What is it going to take for this generation of the MR2 to have its day? This car, it looks basically brand new to me, and it's just sitting at $5,100. Why isn't this $20,000? What are we waiting for?
I suspect a rally at the end. I mean, the low miles is a big deal here. The lack of this is the lowest spec, so that might hurt it a little bit. But I actually think that that appeals to me. I love that this has the least amount of stuff.
I agree.
This car is just. The second gen ones looked like a little Ferrari kind of 355, and those were unbelievably successful. But the thing about all MR2s is that they've always been cheap, and most of them have been roached out. Most of them have been just destroyed by young enthusiasts. So, an older generation doesn't look at them because every time you see one, it's just absolutely beat up and has 250,000 miles on it. The third engine, whatever, it's got 3 different body color, panels because it's been just tacked together, whatever. This one being as clean as it is, it does surprise me that it's not higher with 3 hours to go, at $5,100. Whew.
Yeah. I mean, Radwood is calling you if you own this car and saying, please come to the show. I mean, this is so cool.
Man, with a manual and everything, too. They did make automatic versions of these, so that's about the only one that you don't want. I tell you, and this is even the right color. I mean, silver on kind of black and gray. This is just, I would drive this car. I would not care.
Yeah.
Even though this is totally a kid's car.
Absolutely. JP, where is Walla Walla, Washington? Is it close to Seattle or is it somewhere in the boonies?
It is nowhere near Seattle at all. It is in one of the most remote parts of Washington. You're in the kind of southeast, so it would be closer to maybe Spokane or something, but it's not even really close to there.
Coeur d'Alene.
Richmond.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
Well, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho and Spokane are right next to one another on the border on the far east side, so this is more kind of middle of the state kind of thing. They make onions, and there's a big prison out there. That's about it.
Onions and prisoners. Okay.
Yeah.
Clean.
There's a big, huge penitentiary. Yeah, you don't want most of the residents of Walla Walla are living free. Let's put it that way. They are not paying to live in Walla Walla. All right. Well, do you got a bid on this? Do you have a sense of where this is going to go?
I do. So I wrote. I mean, my initial thought was $7,500. But I look at it. You and I talk about how cool it is. I'm shocked. JP, look at this now. 3 bids. I'm refreshing the page because I can't believe.
Is it? You read the whole ad? Is there a? I mean, I'm looking at it briefly. It says clean Carfax, so it's not a theft, recovery, or salvage, right? It's good. Right. No accidents. Yeah. I mean, geez, that doesn't make any sense.
I put 7,500, but I still want to think that can't be right. And yet, at $7,500. You're asking for a 50% rally. So I think
this is one of the rare occasions where this car would probably be better off on Cars and Bids. I think there's a slightly younger audience on Cars and Bids, and I think maybe just a little bit more Radwood appreciation over there. I don't know. Yeah. So where are you going to go?
In my heart, I want this car to be worth $10,000. It doesn't make sense that it's this, but my bid is $7,500, and I'm not going to move it. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I am torn because I think it's certainly worth that, and it would seem the way things have been that this should be a $10,000 car. I'm gonna bet on a late rally and go 8,000. Because it is the right car, and people have got to be looking at it, and we're talking about it, so we're clearly tastemakers. So someone's going to watch Bid Nerds and go, "Oh, I wasn't thinking about this car, but now I'm going to look at what I got in. I'm going to look in between the cushions and the couches to see if I could scrape up some extra money." Yeah,
JP, it is remarkable how little we see the market. It is unbelievable.
Yeah. We might have a negative. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So $8,000, you're saying 75. It'll be very, very interesting to see where this one lands. I'll definitely be paying attention to it. Love to have an excuse to go up and see some friends in Seattle and pick this one up if there's a steal on here. But
wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
guys. Well, is that it? Is that our first edition of? All right. Well, so there it is. Monday's. We're bid nerds. I almost said we're Cars and Bids. We're not Cars and Bids. We're not Bring a Trailer. We're the Bid Nerds. This is your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars and bids and Bring a Trailer. Join us every Monday through Friday, somewhere in the 9 o'clock hour on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification button. We really, really need your help. We're a new channel, and we're looking for our fans to help spread the word. This is going to be a lot more fun when there's more of us, because we want to interact with your bids. We want to hear what you guys have to say about what we think of the cars. We'd love to hear some insults. Somebody tell us how wrong we are. We want to
Oh,
see
yeah.
people tell us that we are just the bid idiots, and that would
Yeah.
be just fine with us because we hear it all the time from the people we know anyway. So there it is.
Yeah.
Join us Monday through Friday on Bid Nerds. You're the most interesting cars on the Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. This has been John Polnik in Las Vegas, along with my partner Michael Deeb in San Francisco. We say thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Anything else you want to say, Michael Deeb, before we say goodbye?
Happy Monday. Thanks, JP.